This is PG and you're watching Channel 2 News. We're here live with breaking news about a man named Gulliver who is now reportedly washed up ashore on a small island in the South Indian Ocean. Let's bring it back to Channel 2's reporter Tobias Harris, who is now on the scene.
This is Tobias Harris reporting live from Lilliput, where a Mr. Gulliver has been kidnapped by vertically challenged people. According to witnesses, Mr. Gulliver had washed up ashore after a shipwreck, and now he is currently tied up by some Lilliputians.
In this incredible footage captured by Channel 2's own camera crew, we can see two Lilliputians fighting rather pointlessly about what cause to tie Gulliver up with, before eventually leading him off to the capital.
After only a few hours in Lilliput, sources say that Gulliver had urinated on the Capitol in an attempt to put out a fire, but he is currently on trial for treason. And here in Lilliput, it's currently 82 degrees outside. It's partially cloudy, and it's going to be a wonderful. Whoa! We have breaking news. Back to Pam.
This is PG coming to you live from the newsroom with breaking news. Gulliver has now escaped Lilliput and is now on his way back to England, where his family awaits him. This is truly a heartwarming end to a once-in-a-lifetime story. See you tomorrow. This is PG signing off. Good morning, world, and welcome back to Channel 2's News. This is PG here, and we're back with breaking news. Gulliver is again stranded in a distant land, this time in the northwest coast in North America, on an island called Brobdingnag. Now to Shelby on the scene.
Thank you, Pamela. This is Shelby reporting from Brobdingnag. This is a most heartbreaking case for Mr. Gulliver, who was just recently blown off course and abandoned by his crewmates on a land of giants. Sources say that these giants were baffled by his small stature and are currently keeping him in a small cage for money. Here we have some unbelievable footage captured by our own amazing Channel 2 news crew of Gulliver being shown off by a Brobdingnag. Witnesses say that after being kept in a cage, Gulliver got sick and was recently just sold to the Queen. Oh, I'm getting something from my co-anchor Pam. Let's go to her.
Thank you, Carli. This is Pam in the newsroom with more breaking news. Sources have said Gulliver has escaped Baghdad with the help of a friend and once again on his way back to England, where his family awaits him. Again, what a heartwarming end. Join us back here tomorrow. This is PG signing off. Good morning, everyone. This is PG, and we're back with Channel 2 News. This just in, Gulliver has, for the third time, become stranded on an island, this time apparently floating above the sea. Let's go now to Tobias Harris for more on this unbelievable story.
This is Tobias Harris reporting live from the floating island of Lilliput, where everybody seems to be Michael Jordan today. Here on the island of Lilliput, these are some of the dumbest, smartest people I've ever seen. And after being marooned by pirates, our Gulliver ends up here.
Hello? Thanks to the Oscar-worthy film crew here at Channel 2 News, we now have this footage of Gulliver attempting to get the attention of a couple of aloof Lilliputians.
Oh my God. Breaking news, Gulliver got bored, now he's on his way to Tokyo. Back to Pam.
Thanks, Tobias. This is Pam here in the studio with more breaking news. Witnesses are reporting that Gulliver has apparently gotten bored of Laputa and is currently on his way to Japan. According to... this just in. Apparently there's been a mutiny on board. Gulliver's crew has taken... more breaking news. He's been stranded for the 4th time near Australia. Here's Shelby with more.
Thanks, Pam. This is Shelby coming to you live from south of Australia, where we're being told that Gulliver was left after he was mutinized by his crew. Apparently he's on this island right now, surrounded by 2 different races, called the, I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, but the Houyhnhnms and the Yahoos. The Yahoos are a race of barbaric, human-like creatures which are enslaved by the Houyhnhnms, which are intelligent, horse-like creatures. Inside sources tell us that Gulliver is apparently more attached to the Houyhnhnms than he is to the Yahoos. I really hope this doesn't affect his family life. In yet another feat, genius, Channel 2's own camera crew was able to capture this groundbreaking footage of Gulliver associating and even sharing a meal with a couple of Houyhnhnms. Let's take a look. We interrupt this program with breaking news about Gulliver's travels. Back to Pam.
This is PG live in the studio with what appears to be the conclusion of one of the strangest stories I've ever heard in my 293 years of reporting. Gulliver is finally back home with his wife and kids, though sources close to the family say that he hasn't been the same since his return.
What is the status of the Gullivers right now?
Yeah, he kind of just hates everyone right now.
Okay. This has truly been a remarkable experience for everyone watching. Thank you for sticking with us with Channel 2 News while we covered Gulliver's travels.
You're now watching the Literary Analysis Channel. Please welcome your host, Professor Junkits.
Hello friends, and welcome to the Literary Analysis Channel. I'm your host, Professor Junkits. I'm also a DJ and an ordained minister, in case anyone is looking to put on the wedding of the century. But for now, I'm simply your host of the Literary Analysis Channel. Today, we'll be talking about a timeless tale, an age-old classic, a book as old as dirt itself, but as relevant as the shoes on your feet, Gulliver's Travels. For those of you silly gooses who haven't familiarized yourself with this book and know watching the 2010 Jack Black movie does not count, we'll start with a brief overview. Gulliver's Travels was a novel written by Jonathan Swift in 1726. That's 293 years for those of you who are mathematically inclined. This novel is considered a satirical masterpiece, providing many criticisms of many aspects of human nature, as well as many systems and governing bodies of Swift's time. Lemuel Gulliver, an English surgeon and subsequent ship captain, travels all across the world, visiting various strange lands and peoples. During his first voyage, Gulliver shipwrecks and he becomes stranded on an island called Lilliput, inhabited by teeny tiny people who war constantly about ridiculous things, such as which end of an egg should be broken first. After returning home, Gulliver sets out again, and on his second voyage is abandoned by his crew on an island called Brobdingnag, populated by a very practical but simple-minded group of giants. Again, Gulliver returns home, and again he leaves. On his third voyage, his ship is attacked by pirates, and Gulliver ends up stranded under the floating island of Laputa, which is inhabited by a race of always aloof people who excel greatly in math and science, but fail to use any of their knowledge and discoveries practically. After leaving Laputa, Gulliver's own crew commits mutiny against him and leaves him in the land of the Houyhnhnms, an island populated by two major races. There are the Yahoos, who are filthy, barbaric creatures in human form, and then there are the Houyhnhnms, whom Gulliver prefers, who are rational and intelligent creatures, resembling horses, that look down upon humanity. The Yahoos are enslaved by the Houyhnhnms. Now that we've had a chance to cover the basic plot of the novel, let's go to our audience for some questions. Stressed Student 5ever writes, "This book seems random as heck. Is there actually any theme or reason behind it? P.S. This is probably the most boring show that's ever existed." Well, stressed student, while I don't appreciate your unprovoked criticism, I will answer your question. Indeed, the novel may seem a bit random to those who are unfamiliar with it, but there are several crucial themes that underlie it. The main one being that, try as we might to find it, there is no perfect societal structure that exists. Whether in the foreign family dynamics of the populations Gulliver visits, or the widely differing systems of government and law that control them, Swift shows us that even if the seemingly flawless ideals of logic and reason are the foundations of a civilization, there will still be faults in society, such as with the Laputans and the Houyhnhnms. Other prominent themes in the novel relate to questions about the pursuit of knowledge, as seen in the way that the Laputans suffer as a result of their endless need to observe and contemplate the world around them, as well as questions of authority and justice, displayed in several of the societies visited by Gulliver, where power, rather than morals, are used to govern. Let's take another audience question. Is your mustache real? I'd like to answer your question with another question. If a tree falls in the middle of a forest, yet no one is around to harvest its branches and build a very large fire, did it ever really fall in the first place? I think you know the answer to that. Let's take one final question. This comes from Professor Junkets is so cool _XOXO. Hi, Professor Junkets. I'm your biggest fan. Can you please use your incredible knowledge and insight to talk about characterization in the novel and what this says about the characters? P.S. You're so amazing and underappreciated. Wow, what a kind and thoughtful question from a complete stranger who I've never spoken with before. Of course I can answer your question. Swift employs pretty direct characterization throughout the novel to portray the characteristics of both Gulliver himself and the people he encounters. In doing this, Swift enables readers to focus primarily on what Gulliver does rather than why he does it, as well as on the symbolism of each set of foreign characters, rather than trying to decipher who they are and how they act. This makes Swift's attempted comparisons more obvious and accessible to readers. He also creates parallels between the physical appearances of each group and their behavior, such as the giants being small-minded and the animalistic Houyhnhnms being highly civilized. This also allows for Swift's satire to be more direct and better understood by readers. We still have lots more to discuss in this episode, but first, a word from our sponsors. Stick around.
This episode of the Literary Analysis Channel is brought to you by Boatsurance. Tired of losing your deposit on a ship after it gets wrecked, blown off course, attacked by pirates, or simply stolen from you by your own crew? Then you need Boatsurance. Never worry again about whether or not that family you haven't seen in 6 months will suffer should your ship go down in a blaze of glory. Boatsurance.
We are sailors. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
And welcome back to the Literary Analysis Channel. For our final segment today on Gulliver's Travels, let's talk about my favorite part of literature, symbolism. As we've mentioned before, this book is satire. But what exactly does that mean? It all comes down to symbolism. Each population has some obvious characteristics to which we can draw a parallel to some aspect of ourselves as people, or the society in which we live. The Lilliputians are small and petty, the Brobdingnagians are large and simple, the Laputans are much too focused on intellectual advancement, and the Houyhnhnms, they're civilized, but essentially robotic. Each of these groups, though to varying degrees, represent a fault in us as people, or rather they represent the downsides of adopting these attitudes and lifestyles wholly. They are criticisms of societies and systems and governments that rely either solely or not at all on logic and reason, on power and materialistic things. You know, this actually reminds me of a very good book I read back in my day. It was called How to Read Literature Like a Professor. You should all check it out if you haven't already. In this book, Thomas C. Foster discusses a similar issue in the chapter, It's All Political. He says, writing that engages the realities of its world, that thinks about human problems, including those in the social and political realm, that addresses the rights of persons and the wrongs of those in power, can be not only interesting, but hugely compelling. And this is what we see in Gulliver's Travels. Swift makes use of interesting characters and situations to create a mirror through which we're able to view our own selves in our own societies. As Foster eloquently explains, we can gain more insight into human problems of all kinds, which Swift cleverly enables through the use of non-human creatures and situations. Essentially, the unfamiliarity of Swift's creatures enables us to more objectively view what they say and do, while their service as symbols allows for reflection upon our own systems and behaviors. Another relevant parallel that could be drawn to how to read literature like a professor is the discussion of irony, of which Gulliver's Travels is quite full. In his chapter, Is He Serious? And Other Ironies, Foster claims that what irony chiefly involves is a deflection from expectation. This concept can be seen throughout Swift's novel as a means of highlighting the strangeness of a situation or behavior, such as Gulliver being rewarded for putting out the fire in the Lilliputian king's palace with a conviction of treason. By crafting actions and responses that seem to contradict each other, Swift forces readers to consider the strangeness of the situation, and thus reflect on how this irony applies to us as people and to our own actions. One final connection to be drawn between Gulliver's Travels and How to Read Literature Like a Professor is in the consideration of geography and its meaning in the novel. As described in the chapter Geography Matters of Foster's book, geography is setting, but it's also, or can be, psychology, attitude, finance, industry, anything that place can forge in the people who live there. Foster tells us of how geography, in addition to simply being the setting of a place, can also serve as a crucial plot tool for authors, and Swift exemplifies this perfectly. In using the ocean as the starting place for Gulliver's adventures, as well as the means by which he will visit each foreign land, it serves not just as the backdrop for a significant portion of the novel, but also as a symbol of so many central ideas of the story: change, continuity, progress, decline, opportunity, failure, and so much more. After all, it is by sea that Gulliver ventures out into the great unknown, and by sea that he ultimately returns disappointedly to his home country in the end. Additionally, as prefaced by the words of Foster, the ocean and its distinct nature are crucial to the events of the story. Shipwrecks, pirate attacks, and mutinies are all unique to the open waters. Thus, by spending such a relatively large amount of time at sea, Gulliver is put in the proper position to experience the misfortunes that he does, ultimately leading him to the many amazing people and places that he encounters. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with the Literary Analysis channel. We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode and may or may not have learned a thing or two about Jonathan Swift's incredible novel, Gulliver's Travels. I'd like to thank the audience for the questions they sent in and ask that @BeaverLover199 stop sending me hate mail. It's making me cry. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'm Professor Junkets, and you've been watching the Literary Analysis channel.